Hi, I'm Stephanie Douglas, and it is Thursday, September 27th, and I am doing a podcast on being shut down by women. So this week was a very interesting week because a lot of things are going on. One of the things that is going on is the promotion of a mayoral debate at Hotshots on October the 4th at, I believe, 7 p.m. This is problematic in far more ways than one. So, um, Jamie Larkin has been promoting the whole concept of a mayoral debate. I have kept trying to say, man, maybe a conversation would be better because I don't know about my viewers, but a lot of people I know. So I guess some of my viewers, and definitely me, am really tired of what people call political debates because they're not real debates. They don't follow process. They don't follow procedure. They don't have um, thought out arguments. It really is about posturing and talking over people and putting down people. Moderators don't know the the rules of debate, so they don't actually have to um, prepare as if they were giving an actual debate with rebuttals and all those kinds of things. So to me, it's really political posturing and who can talk the loudest and who could get the most boos or yays from the crowd, and it's it's a misnomer. Any political debate lately is a misnomer. But I have been encouraging Jamie and all the mayoral candidates to do a public conversation. So I guess Jamie Larkin has was dipping into his network of supporters and possibilities, and Kathy Tweel, the owner of Hotshots, offered Hotshots to host it. And now the whole thing about how they're advertising this mayoral candidate debate is by the people, for the people. Well, that's not exactly true because um, it's only for the people that they've decided are already supporters of Mitch Tweel. So having the debate at a non-neutral location, such as Kathy Tweel's Hotshots, has a lot of political and community implications that I find quite serious, and there is a lot of ethical and moral issues involved in this, as far as I'm concerned. So when this first started was announced, I made some commentary about it, mostly around I hope it's a conversation, not a debate. I hope it's not confrontational, it's conversational. And I tagged Valentin Gomez who's running for Ward 4, because I wanted him to see this and I wanted him to know that it was going on and to put his voice in or not, but I tagged him because he's my counselor. Oh, no, he's not my counselor. Sorry, getting ahead of myself by a lot. Didn't mean that. He is running for council member of Ward 4, which is Mitch Tweel's ward. And by tagging Valentin Gomez on this discussion by a lot of people, not just myself, there's lots of different threads going on this one thread about a debate and who would show up and who wouldn't show up and how to tell who to vote for by who didn't or did show up. And all I did was tag him on it. And Kathy Tweel responded immediately. And she responded by, Mitch Tweel is my brother and he's the counselor of Ward 4. And I went, I know that. It's time for Mitch to move on. And she kind of didn't like that. She said, I'm sorry you think that. Um, but no, it's not time for Mitch to move on. And so I pointed out why it's time for Mitch to move on. To me, it's a conversation. It should be democracy is all about having different voices and allowing different voices and people speaking what they know. And some things I know very well, some things I believe, and some things I think I know. I know that Mitch Tweel has been council member of Ward 4 for way, 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 way too many years. Since 1994, and I believe that this, if he actually wins this year, which I really hope he doesn't, um, it will be 8 consecutive years as council member for Ward 4. And so, how I answered Kathy as to why Mitch needed to move on was very simple and very clear, and which I've said many times, especially in my other podcasts on housing and homelessness and the issues of housing and the new construction on Young and Upper Prince that goes almost down to University and how problematic that is and the questions the Guardian haven't asked. And so what I wrote was basically, oh, she deleted everything. She deleted the whole thread. She deleted the whole post. She had just asked to friend me, which I had accepted. And then as soon as she didn't like any of my comments, she totally blocked me and deleted everything. So my comments are not up there at all, or anybody else's. So that is far from a democratic approach to politics. But I did tell, and I did say, look, Mitch has been, I've known Mitch since 1995. So I've known him since 1 year after he became counselor. And I believe I was in his ward then, which was on Granville and University, where it goes up to Bishop and turns around, north of Houston. And I used to go to his mom's store all the time. It was down the block. I never buy anything very serious there. Um, it's not in very great shape. It wasn't then. But what I said to her was that Mitch Tweel is one of the long-term council members who has known, if you see me kind of slapping at things, I have some fruit flies, and they drive me absolutely crazy. I call them the little bastards. And my roommate is very, very, very comprehending that I go around the house clapping or smashing them against walls. Just to let you know, if I suddenly do like this, it's because I'm trying to catch a fruit fly and I'm not having a nervous tick. Although I do get those occasionally, especially when I'm angry. But, so I wrote her, I said, it's not what I think. Um, it, they're the facts. And the facts are that Mitch Tweel has been councillor of Ward 4 for a very long time. Mitch is one of the council long-term ward council members, council member of Ward 4, who, along with Clifford Lee and the rest of those guys, I think there's one woman, have intentionally, with the province, created a housing crisis. And I will keep saying intentionally because the city and the government of Prince Edward Island entered into a research project in 2010 with a national research organization called the Homeless Hub. All this information is online. Homeless Hub. If you go to the Homeless Hub, if you type in Homeless Hub and you go to PI, there's all the different years. It was 2010 to 2016, and the reason why PEI entered into this research project on the growing issue of people homeless on PI was because they noticed it in 20 they noticed it, so they must have started noticing it when they started to increase immigration and the PNP program as PI as an entry door. So they engaged in this research on homelessness in Charlottetown and Summerside. I'm focusing more on Charlottetown because I know Charlottetown. I don't know Summerside as well right now. Um, but that doesn't mean I won't in the future when I have a car and I can zoom up there and talk to people. So they did this. They were part of this research project for 6 years, 2010 to 2016. It is now 2018, and the housing crisis is off the charts. So the homeless have made recommendations, they offered strategies, they showcased to the province how much money a year they spent on homelessness, which I have said before is between 240 and $300 million a year. It's not going to housing, it's going to what I've learned to call white collar welfare, which is adding a whole bunch of staff unnecessarily to systems like City Hall, like the province, like social programs. There's a lot of money to be made if you work in that industry because it is an industry off the poor and it's a revenue stream. So he, Mitch Tweel, I have not heard anything from Mitch Tweel about that construction on Yonge Street and how inappropriate it is for this area in terms of we already have a lack of housing, and these are going to be micro units that aren't even going to be annual units, and a bed and breakfast. And where's the parking? Mitch Tweel is a part of the council who, over the last 8 years, has chosen not to learn from the Homeless Hub research, but also not to learn from any other city in the country that has not addressed issues around housing and housing costs and affordable housing early, and so then has an increase in people who are homeless in all different areas and across different economic social economic and educational areas as well. It's not, always and only the person that the stereotype that the media likes to portray of the drunken bum or, the whatever. There's people with mental health issues who don't have supports. There's no supports on PI for people with mental health issues to live independently. Very little. Single parents, male or female. Single parents. Or single parents covers all the genders and all the gender identities and all the different types of family dynamics, including grandparents who are bringing up their children. So single parenting, whether it's single grandparenting, doesn't matter. So when I say single parenting, it's across the board. I do not mean women. I do not only mean single mothers who are parenting. I mean all the different types of single parents out there. So Mitch Tweel, they've never put in any bylaws. They never instituted any bylaws around new construction and new development or renovated units, apartment buildings, to ensure that one, there was always a certain percentage of affordable housing. They have not learned from the other cities and the problems with Airbnb, so they've never put in any bylaws and any types of rules around what can and cannot be turned into Airbnb. And so my friend Cindy, who is still homeless since June 1st, and but has been on in my tiny one bedroom apartment, my couch mate, since July 23rd, and is likely to be here till November 1st or 5th or 6th. Even with a good ceiling, not great, but what used to be considered a high ceiling for rent, um, she hasn't been able to find anything. Nothing. So one unit has come up and it looks like it's a go, and so she will be with me until November, whenever she moves into her new unit, her own place. So they haven't put in any bylaws around that. Now her apartment building, I think there was 4 or 6 units. Don't quote me on that one. Um, when her landlord died, all the units got turned into Airbnb. That's 4 units of affordable apartments that have been transformed. Actually, she said she got a friend who took a look at one, and they basically slapped a coat of paint on it and are now charging $1,300 for the space that she's paid 500 and whatever it was, under $600. So Mitch Tweel has a lot to answer for in terms of being a council member for this ward, for not speaking out on the issues of lack of housing. Not He's so entrenched, and from what how his sister responded, believes that it's his divine right to be council member of Ward 4. So anyway, I mentioned those things. That these were the issues, that it is time for Mitch to move on, and for Ward 4 to have a new face. A new face, new ideas, new understanding of the great diversity that now exists in Ward 4. I have not heard Mitch Tweel really talk about the diversity on in this area. I said it's not just it's the diversity is phenomenal. In my building alone, there is a 2-year-old who is first generation Canadian Nigerian Islander, and the Islander is important because Islanders who have been born here and have been here, their families here for many, many, many decades or hundreds of years. They can don't think anybody else can be an Islander, especially a black Islander anymore. But we have new black Islanders. In my building, there's a young woman who's Nepalese, who's Bhutanese, but was in a Nepalese refugee camp and came here as a refugee, and her child is Canadian Bhutanese Islander. Ward 4 has changed dramatically, even in the 5 years I've been back. There are a lot of East Indians in the area, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Bhutanese, a smattering of Spanish, Middle Eastern, Chinese, other Asian cultures, all in this area. And Mitch has not addressed any of that. So he's Lebanese. He's been Lebanese for a long time, and he's a part of a family of Lebanese who have a very long history on PEI. So they are the status quo. Mitch and his family. There's a status quo. They have property. They have money. Oh, property. That's and I did also say I forget what she said to that. It wasn't very nice, but anyway, and I said that she said that he's a great guy and that he's deserves to be counselor again, and there's no one basically worth being a counselor other than him. And I went, there's housing issues he hasn't dealt with. I said, not only has he not dealt with housing issues, their own property on University Avenue, which was looking run down in 1995 and 2001 when I left, and has been closed for a large number of years, at least the 5 going on 6 years I've been back on the island. Um, Looks like a slum. It's very simple. Gentrification is one thing. I don't like gentrification. It changes the neighborhood. It spikes up rent. It spikes up food costs. It displaces people. But there is a line between gentrification, which is what the construction on Young and Upper Prince is, and not slapping the coat of paint on a decaying building so that it doesn't look like a slum building. And whenever I pass it, the first thing I think is slumlord. So what she did was to not only block me, but delete the whole conversation. Why is that important? Well, if this is a mayoral debate by the people, for the people, by which people? Because Kathy Tweel has already made it very, very clear that the only person that can run in Ward 4 of any value, that there is no one else, is her brother. He is so entrenched in the position that at least his sister takes his position as Ward 4 councillor as a divine right. How dare anybody else even run? The fact that she deleted me and deleted the conversation is not by the people for the people. It means it's by, oh, the other thing she said, which just totally showed her classism in the worst way, which I said, not only are you classist, but my God, are you a racist also? Because just because somebody's Lebanese doesn't mean they're not racist. But classism, absolutely. One of the things she said is, what property do you own? And I went, what I own or don't own has nothing to do with my right to speak as a community member in Ward 4. So what? Only those people are homeowners with money are allowed the right to express their opinion about the counselor they've had forever, and the possibility of new blood on council representing Ward 4. And I said that is very classist and very elitist and totally inappropriate, totally wrong. You know, what does it matter what I own? Why do you want to know? What does it matter? I live in Ward 4. That's what matters. I think we need a new counselor. That's what matters. These aren't just opinions. These are facts. And I put the link to the Homeless Hub housing report for PI so that it was right there, and anybody who wanted to could click on it and read the whole report or the different years of the report and the summary and the final report on housing in Charlottetown. But deleting my voice, that tells me that by the people, the mayoral debate being held by the people is by people who have a vested interest in maintaining a status quo. That's very dangerous. The fact that this debate is happening at a place that is owned by Mitch Tweel's sister, and she is already deciding who has a voice and who doesn't, raises a lot of political questions for me. First of all, a bar where it's over 19, where people can't bring their kids, where people, that's not an ideal space. It means only certain types of people are going to go there. Not everybody in Ward 4 would feel comfortable walking into a bar. There's a lot of people who don't go to bars, period. Not at all. There's a lot of young families in the area. There's a lot of diverse new immigrants, new Canadian families in the area. The idea of going to a bar with their children is, well, they can't bring their children. And a lot of people don't have family to say, can you please babysit while I go to this event? So it's very exclusionary right from the beginning. There's another issue, and that issue is if it's the sister of a politician who has already made it very clear that the only person who should be the councillor in Ward 4 means that every political candidate for the mayor's job is already endorsing implicitly, and as far as I'm going, explicitly, because they haven't questioned this, they are implicitly endorsing Mitch Tweel to be councillor of Ward 4 and complicitly insinuating that their friends and members of their campaign team and their friends list and their campaign area are also supposed to endorse Mitch Tweel as councillor for Ward 4. That is not a neutral place to debate, to have a political conversation. It is anything but neutral. I mean, I've been totally blocked off. I've been totally silenced. My voice was, well, she thought my voice was cut off. And that's really, 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 really dangerous. I know the Twills have had a long history. They're not all related. A lot of them are related. Some of them are XX related. Some of them aren't related at all. But the ones who have political clout, like Mitch Tweel, have been yielding that political clout so long that they're so totally out of touch with the average person and the average person in their ward that they no longer even think that the average person has a voice, has rights to speak up and state a preference for new blood, new views, new perspectives. And that is very scary. Charlottetown Council and Ward 4, there's a lot of people who have been on council for a very long time. Like Clifford Lee, he was on it. I don't know if he was on and off, but he was on it in 1995 when I got here. Mitch Tweel was on there. There's a lot of the old boys who were there when I was here from 1995 to 2001. And then I came back and I went, nothing's changed. It's like 12 years later and it's still the same faces doing the same thing. And I see Mitch, well, usually when I'm out and about or at an event or at the farmer's market. And, I've known him, like I said, since 1995 when I first went into his mom's store. And I used to run into him and talk to him. And it's time for a change. Until now, there has been no viable candidates. Ellen Mullally would have made a great candidate for Ward 4, and I would like to think she would have won. And she had to withdraw because of her job. Valentin Gomez, well, I was not going to pick sides on anything. I was just going to go, we need new blood. That's it. That's my perspective. We need new blood in Ward 4. Kathy Tweel, however, decided to push that envelope, and I answered her and addressed why. And she continued to push that envelope, and then she had the nerve to block me. That is censorship. And I don't know if her brother knows about it, but it's censorship of the worst kind, because in a democracy, I do not believe that people can say whatever they want in terms of where they harm another person, where they incite violence, where they incite violence against women or against children or against people of different colors or different religion. I don't believe in that kind of freedom of speech. But in Canada, we are closer to a democracy than the States are. We're not a great democracy, but we're more democratic than the States are, by far. But to silence a different voice because I have a preference that somebody new should be in the area, and to delete all um, that conversation, to delete all the conversations because she had to delete the whole post. So there was other voices in there that had something to say. There was other perspectives in there about the mayoral debate, and she just willy-nilly erased everything, started with a clean slate, and blocked me. So what's going to happen if I show up at Hotshots with my computer and streamline it? How long do you think I'm going to last before she gets security to escort me out? How is that a debate by the people for the people? So by the people, it's by the people who already have entrenched political power, and for the people, it's for the people who already have signed on to support and endorse Mitch Tweel as counselor for Ward 4 for what, a ninth consecutive term? Or is this the eighth? One of the two. 8 or 9. Since 1994. Yoo-hoo! Give him a gold watch. He's been the longest running counselor in anywhere in Charlottetown, and in Ward 4. 24 years. It's a long time. Time to retire. Time to let somebody with new ideas, somebody who sees the community with a different perspective. It would be great if there was 2 or 3 or 4 people running for as candidates in Ward 4. Unfortunately, there's only one person. And the very fact of Kathy Tweel's classism and elitism and censorship, who am I going to support? Not Mitch Tweel, that's for damn sure. I'm going to support, in whatever way I can, Valentin Gomez, who has already impressed me. I mean, I was going to have a meeting with him to get to know him a little bit, and then hopefully do a little interview with him, a short interview or a long conversation, whichever worked best, with him and his wife, who is his partner, his friend, and as a good couple should, they work together to support each other. Awesome. I like that he mentioned that his wife would be a part of any meeting we did. I went, great. That's fantastic. We need fresh perspective. I like the fact that Valentin Gomez is not white or Lebanese. I don't know what his ethnic background is. I asked him and he hasn't answered it. I thought there might be some Spanish in there because of his last name is Gomez, but I don't get he doesn't speak Spanish, so I don't know. He hasn't responded to that. We'll get to it at some other point. Mitch has stopped really for years, like the last municipal elections, canvassing the community, talking to people, going door to door, going to the poorer areas of Ward 4, and listening to the people and saying, we can't afford our rent. I'm too old to walk up and down the stairs to my apartment. This is what one older woman told me recently. I have to find a way. I'm still learning the technology. I have to find a way to um, just take her voice and not the video, because the sun was in on my um, phone, and so I didn't actually see her. So I either have the top of the head or the bottom of her lips. But her name is Betty. She lives in Ward 4. She's in an apartment that's affordable right now. She's terrified because it's on the top floor. She's older. I didn't ask her exact age, but she said she was old enough. And it's hard for her to walk up and down the stairs. No services. She doesn't know. There's an assumption that everybody is connected to computers and everybody is computer literate and everybody has access or know how to access computers, and that is not the case in any community, I think, on PI, because there's older people and people with different abilities and people with developmental delays who can read but don't have access to the computer and the political jargon. Like, you need to be able to speak political PI jargonese. It's a very difficult language. It took me years to understand. I only started understanding it when I did the journalism program, and then when I worked up at the West Prince Graphic and was in Alberton for a year, almost a year, that I started to really learn what jargon was. Totally different things. There's a lot I loved about West Prince, but there are some things that in 1998 were not that easy to deal with. So Hotshots is not accessible to the average person. It's not accessible to seniors who, yeah, a lot of them may go up to the bar, but there's a whole lot of single senior women who would never walk into a bar on their own. It would be so unseemly. There are a diverse amount of cultures in Ward 4, and culturally as well as religiously, they're not going to walk into a bar of strangers. Not a very community friendly type of place for any type of debate by the people. No, it's by Kathy Tweel, who has already said, if you say anything against my brother, I'm censoring you, so you're not wanted. You're not allowed to say you want another ward councillor. And every single mayoral candidate who goes to that venue has very politically, and very publicly said, we endorse absolutely Mitch Tweel as councillor no matter who else is running. That's not democracy. So if that's the attitude of the mayoral candidates, and that's the attitude of the host, then it's about people sewing up their positions in a bag going, it's backroom deal. They're backroom deals already. Even before any of these mayoral candidates get in to political office, they're already doing backroom deals, going, if you let us do this, then we'll support. And maybe they haven't said that explicitly, but anybody who shows up at Hotshots on October the 4th for this debate, any of the political candidates, the message they're giving is, it's not about the people. It's only about the people in a certain class that owns or homeowners that have money, that are going to totally endorse Mitch Tweel all the way and encourage all their friends and family and followers to endorse Mitch Tweel. There is no room for change in PEI. It's going to be the same old status quo because they've already said, well, you go back to number one, holding it at hot shots, Kathy Tweel totally censoring a democratic free speech on a site dedicated to promoting the mayoral debate. And there being a lot of different comments on there, but she didn't like my attitude about it's time for a change. It's time for Mitch to retire from Ward 4 because he has not been doing the work needed to ensure that this community has accessible, safe, affordable housing. And holding it at a venue that excludes a wide range of community members is not for the community. It's for a very specific, narrow group of the community, but it's definitely not for the community. Holding it at, Sobeys upstairs, or holding it at one of the churches, or holding it in an open space, or there's all sorts of different ways and different places that the mayoral debate could have been held as not a debate, but as politicians sitting around in a circle with one piece of paper on conversational tips, which I already have developed, and one person being brave enough to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. That's not quite appropriate. Can we go on to the next question from the audience that the audience has put in beforehand or during the conversation? And somebody who's knows how politicians, even would-be politicians, use rhetoric to go, excuse me, this person just asked this question. Could each of you please address and answer that specific question? That's what doesn't happen at mayoral debates anymore. Or any type of political. As a journalist, I never put up with it. I'd ask a question as a journalist, and I would preface my questions going, please do not give me any rhetoric, just answer the question simply and directly. And they would go on about this and that and the other, and I would go, stop. That's not the question I asked, and you're not addressing it at all. So, this is a question. Can you please answer it? And then they'd start off again on a tangent, and I go, what I'm hearing is that you're not going to answer the question. That's what goes into the paper. So-and-so would not answer the question. They went off on a spiel about something totally unrelated and did not answer a very simple, very specific question. And I'm still like that in most things. It's like, don't give me the rhetoric. Just give me the straight shit. And don't you dare shut me down as a woman. And the interesting thing is I've been shut down by 2 women this week. 2 women who think they have power. I find that fascinating. A lot of women's group talk about being shut down by men. I've worked in nonprofit organizations for, since I was in my 20s. And health related, so child protection, mental health, youth at risk, those kind of organizations, people with mental and physical delays and challenges. A lot of them top heavy with female staff and bosses. I have never been shut down by a man except once, where it really made an impression. And that was in 1988. But I have been shut down by women countless times. I've been violated by men. and that's caused certain trauma. But none of it compares to the trauma of other women trying to censor me, shut me down, diminish me, or try to diminish me, has ever affected me. Like, only that by other women has affected me at a soul core level because it's just so wrong. Men don't do it. There's a lot of women who say, oh, men shut women down all the time. In my experience, it's women who shut women down far, far, far more. And this week I have two different examples of that. We don't have a lot of candidates. We have one candidate running against Mitch Tweel. I already like his strategies. I already like the fact that on Sundays he's not going to knock on doors, but what he is going to do is to be at different places where people can come and have conversation with him. I love the fact that he chose businesses in Ward 4, but they were diverse, and so they would get different types of people. The Tim Hortons on Allen Street, turning into Longsworth by the roundabout. Great place. There's seniors in the area. There's people with not a lot of money in the area. There's homeowners in the area. There's, it's a diverse area, and a lot of people go to Tim Hortons. Some of them are regulars, the workers who get off work every day who go there, shift workers. So I like the fact that he went to that Tim Hortons, any Tim Hortons. I like the fact that he just went there, had a little card that he had, and allowed people to approach him at their comfort level. That's fabulous. He went to Upstreet, another place that is and it's very community oriented. I mean, Upstreet has done a lot in terms of their community block party every year and doing community events. And I brought my granddaughters there before it gets past 9 or 10 o'clock, for to eat and have a soda and stuff like that. And I don't know the other place. I think it was 119 or something like that. That's not a business I personally know. It might be new, and I don't go out very much. But I like that strategy. I like that he, instead of asking people to come to him wherever he has gone to where the people are already at. And also invited whoever's passing by, if you're coming anyway, if it's on your way, drop in, say hi, and talk to me. Let's get to know each other. He's already talking about having a green campaign. I really like that because every year, mindlessly, councillors spend a fortune on plastic stuff that goes all over the place and is so environmentally dangerous. And he's looking at a different way of doing that. I like that. I like the fact that he's young. He's not super young. I don't know what age he is, but I think he's younger than I am. I'm 56. He's younger than I am, I believe. Could be wrong. He could be older. I like the fact that he's not white, quite honestly, because I think he's going to have the chance and the opportunity to engage a lot of the community who are living here as permanent residents, as new Canadians whose children are first generation Canadian, but very more importantly, first generation Islanders and first generation Ward 4 members. So think about all of this, please, before you go to Hotshots, which I don't even know if it's wheelchair accessible. It might be. I don't know that. Hotshots is a bar. It's owned by Kathy Tweel. She has already been very, very clear that only people who support and endorse her brother are allowed to comment, and by extension, I assume allowed to enter her establishment. I sure the hell wouldn't go down there to live stream the conversation, because what am I going to encounter if she finds out who I am? Well, she'll notice because my picture's on my Facebook page, so she'll go, "Oh, security, can you escort her out?" I'd like to see them try, but hey. But it's a private business, and it's the private business of the sister of a long-term counselor since Mitch Tweel, who's been here since 1994 as ward counselor, Ward 4 counselor. So if you go as a mayoral candidate and you go to this venue and you use it, you are already saying that you are politically bought. You're bought, lock, stock, and barrel, and paid for. So you're not bringing anything new as a mayor or to council. It's nepotism all the way. You are saying that it's okay to go to a private business to have a public community conversation. But at the same time, by the very nature of where you're going, saying only certain people are welcome, only certain colors are welcome, only certain incomes are welcome, only certain ages are welcome, and only people who already endorsed my brother, Mitch Tweel, are welcome. Think very, very carefully before you enter into the debate on that 4th, and think very carefully, the community members, about going. And please raise your voices and go, yeah, we would really like to see a change of councillor in Ward 4. Mitch Tweel is a part of the old guard. The old guard has dropped their masks, at least his sister has, and said, you do not count. You don't count, you don't count, and you don't count, and you definitely don't count, and if you don't own property, you sure the hell don't count. She doesn't know whether I own property or not. But for the mayors, this may be mayoral suicide, but it definitely sends a message to all of us, to the community, to all of Charlottetown, that you can be bought very easily just by getting a venue and somebody to host the debate, rather than any of you doing any real work and finding a politically neutral location with a politically neutral host, with a politically neutral moderator or conversation facilitator. All these people, all this situation, are all owned by Kathy Tweel and by extension by Mitch Tweel. So if you go to this debate as a mayoral candidate, you are telling all of Charlottetown where all your eggs are, and all your eggs are in maintaining the status quo. Think about that. Stephanie Douglas, signing off from A View from Abroad. And please, community warrior healers, if you want to see change in Charlottetown, if you want to see change in Ward 4, please raise your voices. Ask me questions. Ask questions that you want talked about. Ask questions of all the mayoral candidates. Ask questions of Kathy Tweel and censorship. Ask questions of Valentin Gomez and how is he going to represent you better or worse in Ward 4 than Mitch Tweel? But do we want somebody who's already been here since 1994 that has intentionally been a problem in creating the housing crisis on PEI, to continue to represent a very diverse and growing Ward 4? Do we want his kind of exclusion within our ward? Do we want constructions like the one on um, Young and Upper Prince, which are not affordable units? They're not even long-term units, and there's a bed and breakfast, and nobody's talked about parking. And neither the Guardian, as far as I've heard, or the CBC has nailed down council and gone, why have you not put in, during these last 8 years, why have you never put in any type of bylaws on new construction and Airbnb, um, after so much information has hit the streets about the cost of homelessness, the social issues that come with homelessness, the cost of gentrification, the whole issues that come with that. Speak up, speak out, make your voice heard, comment on my podcast, ask questions, suggest interviews, suggest stories, and if you don't speak up, one voice is not enough.